Yes, yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Founders Pod. I am your host, ARich, Akeem Richens. And if you don't know me by now, if you don't know us by now, get to know us. We are Built in Buffalo. We are the Built in Buffalo Network. How is everybody doing out there today? I hope everybody had a productive week. I hope everybody's had a good time so far this weekend and whatever you indulged in your plans this weekend, right? Hopefully it was productive and you got a chance to relax and indulge into something that I call the dog days of summer, right? This is where, the NBA finals is out. It's not too much sports going on, not too much activity in the sporting world going on. Early in OTAs, where the superstar players are not really taking things as serious yet. It's more for the rookies and more for the young guys to build that chemistry and continuity. So we have that thing going on in terms of the type of activities happening in the NFL during these dog days of summer while we continue to ramp up and get ready for training camp and the Hall of Fame game and anxiously waiting for the NFL season next season or this season to unfold. But in the meantime, right? And before I even start, shout out everybody that's in right now. We have 189 people in the chat. My boy Dan Kelly is in. My boy Dan Kelly, what's going on, my brother? We have Grant in the building. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. And before I start, right, if you're watching on Facebook, give this a like, give this a share. If you're watching on YouTube, please give this a like. And if you haven't subscribed to the Built in Buffalo channel, what are you waiting for? Go ahead, take a minute, get out of there, get out of here. I'll be here when you come back. Go subscribe to the Built in Buffalo YouTube channel, and you can stay right there and watch this EP, this episode of the Founders Podcast. And last but not least, if you're watching on Twitter or if you're watching on X, please give this a like, give this a repost. Shout out my brother DM3, who is not here this evening. Obviously, he is in the middle of moving, and we all know how hectic moving can be. So that's going to be a transition for DM3. We hope we can get DM3 back on the Founders Pod sooner rather than later, starting next week. So be on the lookout for myself and DM3 back on as early as next week, 9:15 Eastern Standard Time on the Founders Podcast. But let's get started for today, right? I wanted to talk about Joe Brady and what he said about, and let's see if I can find it here, right? Joe Brady said in a press conference that this is Josh Allen's offense, right? And I thought I found this quote to be interesting. I noticed a lot of tidbits and little quotes from Joe Brady's presser, but this is the one that stuck out the most. This one, and of course, everybody's going to eat, right? That stuck out a lot as well. But in terms of this offense being Josh Allen's offense, I want to get you guys' perspective in terms of what exactly that means. Because when I've heard this, when I heard and watched Joe Brady say this, I was taken aback, right? Because I wanted to figure out exactly what Joe Brady meant by it being Josh Allen's offense. Because the last time I checked, last season, date back to last season, Josh Allen threw for 4,306 yards. Josh Allen rushed for 524 yards. He accounted for 44 total touchdowns. And all of those numbers equates to and accounts to 73% of the Buffalo Bills offense. So when I see this, I see, okay, hold on. It's only 100%. It's only but so far I can go to. So we have out of 100%, we have 73% that Josh Allen equates to the offense. This has been Josh Allen's offense. What is Joe Brady talking about? This has been Josh Allen's offense for some time, because when you look at or when you talk to our peers, right? It could be Miami Dolphins fans. It could be New York Jet fans. It could be New England Patriot fans. They would say, hey, if you stop Josh Allen or if you stop the one guy that they have in Stephon Diggs, you can stop the Buffalo Bills. We've always heard the media say, hey, Josh Allen does so much for the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen needs help. That is what the media outlets would say. That's what the Nares has been saying for the duration of the past 5 or 6 seasons for Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills offense. Josh Allen needs more help. He can't do everything by himself. Now we hear Joe Brady says, hey, this right here, this particular year is Josh Allen's offense. And I was like, you know what? Let me see if I can really understand what Joe Brady definition of it is now Josh Allen's offense, even though numbers suggest this has been Josh Allen's offense for some time, right? So I think about it and I break it down. What does Joe Brady mean? 241 targets from your starting receivers and Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis, gone, right? Your starting center for the last 5 seasons in Mitch Morse. And in my opinion, having a veteran center is crucial to the development of a rookie quarterback, is crucial to the development of a young quarterback. And I believe that Mitch Morse played a crucial role in the development and progression of what Josh Allen is today. And being that he's been with the Buffalo Bills organization the last 5 years and he is no longer there, I think that is something that, we can't ignore. A crucial component to the offensive line. Trey White gone, a former All-Pro, a former great player who was a leader and an excellent locker room presence. Micah Hyde gone, another great player that was a leader and an excellent locker room presence on and off the field. Jordan Poyer gone, another player like the previous 2 I mentioned that was a great player, a leader, and that locker room presence on and off the field. And these guys wasn't just guys that was just leaders, right? Because there's a lot of athletes out there that are great leaders, but not necessarily great players. Right there, you have a lot of average players that are great leaders and that's looked to in the locker room, but they don't necessarily show the all-star talent on the football field. Well, Micah Hyde, Trey White, Jordan Poyer, they were all pro players on top of being leaders on that football team, and that is no longer available to Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. And I think because of that, because of no Mitch Morse and because of no Micah Hyde and these players and because of Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs, these veteran presence players and guys gone, I think I've come to an understanding of what Joe Brady means by this is Josh Allen's offense. This year in year 7, and I want to get your thoughts, right? This year in year 7 is going to be the hardest season for Josh Allen as a player in his career as the Buffalo Bills quarterback. I think this year is going to provide a lot of challenges for Josh Allen, and how he handles those challenges can equate to how much success the Buffalo Bills will have this season. And before I continue, let me go ahead and see who I got in the comments and see what's going on. Yo, is my camera acting up? I didn't know. I didn't know. Yeah, my camera's acting up. I apologize. My camera's acting up. I apologize. I think it's better right now. Raymond says communication. Raymond says communication is going to be vital. I definitely agree. Bills Mafioso says they're all Pro Bowlers, but the real majority of them haven't been on the field and in the past 2 years. And of course, those are valid points as well, right? And these are not, and because of that, right, those players had to be let go. And as fans and as our peers would see, this is not the Buffalo Bills team we've been accustomed to seeing these last several years. So how the Buffalo Bills will respond is something we're going to see this season. But this is Josh Allen's offense, like we were saying, like we was alluding to. But I think, what makes this challenging for Josh Allen is the intricate details of the game, right? It's the intricate details of the game that I think Josh Allen didn't have to necessarily do as a young quarterback, as a young player, because he had veteran presence around him, because he had veteran players around him. I don't think a focal point was the intricate details of the game, and I believe because of those intricate details, this season would make it a lot more challenging this year for the Buffalo Bills. When you have veteran guys and veteran presence, they have the IQ. They understand where to be and what to do. Whereas this season, I think that Josh Allen is gonna have to definitely be more vocal, right? No more Mitch Morse. He has to get accustomed to having a new center. You have to get accustomed to how that center snaps the football. You have to get an understanding of what that center sees when he's reading the defense, right? And does that correlate with what Josh Allen sees when he's reading the defense, so they can be a cohesive unit pre and post snap? Right. So those are part of the intricate details, not having the center the last 5 years, having a new center and understanding how he snaps and how he sees and views the game. Josh Allen, he doesn't have the Cole Beasleys anymore, right? He doesn't have the Emmanuel Sanders anymore, right? He doesn't have those wily veterans that understands the game and understands the nuances of the game and has the high IQ to understand where to be in soft coverages, where to be in soft zone spots. You know, he doesn't have that anymore. And excuse me. And I believe because of that, he's going to have to transition into lining players up himself, right? When you're a veteran player, they kind of know where to be. When you're a young player, young players is going to look to Josh Allen for advice in terms of where to line up, in terms of when to make this cut, in terms of when to go in motion. So I think the transition that Josh Allen has to overcome this season is what's going to make this the most challenging season of his career. So, in this show, I'm seeing all the comments. I'm liking all the comments as well. Bills Mafioso says that's a legit assessment. I believe Josh Allen is working with McGovern already. I've heard. Of course. When you have that offensive line, when you have a new center, you want to work on that as early as possible. So it's critical and crucial to get in their OTAs and early in camp so you can get that chemistry and camaraderie going, because that's going to be a key focal point, even though we look at it as something that is overlooked and underrated in terms of the possession and snap between center and quarterback. That's a crucial component of the game that have to be honed on early and often, and that starts with training camp. But I want to go ahead and list, and even though I know that ultimately this is Josh Allen's offense, Josh Allen is still going to have some things around him find success. Players around him are still going to have to step up in order for the Buffalo Bills to find success as an offense this season and overall as a team. So, what are three components around Josh Allen that has to continue to ascend for the Bills to have success this season? And I don't know, everybody has a definition of what they think success is, right? What is success for the Buffalo Bills this season? Is that hoisting the Lombardi Trophy? Is that defending the AFC East Championship for the 5th year in a row? Is that having a home field advantage throughout the course of the playoffs? What is your definition of success for Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills this season? It could vary from person to person or from fan to fan, but in my opinion, the first thing that has to continue to ascend in order for the Buffalo Bills to have success this season is, I'm going to go right to it, offensive line play, right? Offensive line play at minimum has to remain at status quo for the Buffalo Bills. Now you have Deion Dawkins, and in my opinion, Deion Dawkins is one of those guys that is one of the better offensive tackles in the NFL, but the rest of the media outlets or our peers probably don't look at him as one of the better tackles in the NFL. He's one of the more underappreciated tackles, but in my opinion, the Deion Dawkins is a premier tackle at that position. You have Spencer Brown. Here's where it gets interesting, right? What's going to happen on the inside? What's going to happen with the guards? Is David Edwards going to be the starting guard? Will he have a commander starting spot in the rotation? Will Connor McGovern move to center, or will he stay at guard now that the Buffalo Bills have drafted Sandrick Van Pran Granger, the Georgia Bulldog that's been a starter for a championship team for multiple years? Is Leal Collins a starter? Is he a depth piece? Is he a contingency plan? Or is he a stopgap for the Buffalo Bills? What is Leal Collins for the Buffalo Bills in terms of offensive line play? That's another thing that is going to be interesting and remains to be seen. Regardless of what the future plans are, I think it's imperative for the Buffalo Bills to at least remain status quo, right? We're talking about 5 guys last season that started almost 1,000 snaps, and that's 1,000 snaps of continuity to build off of and combine. So that is something that we want to continue to have this season. We want to be able to be physical at the point of attack in the run game, right? And I think that was critical for the Buffalo Bills as well, having that identity, finding that identity, and being aggressive when they found that identity to go to. And that identity to go to was indeed the running game for the Buffalo Bills. So if we can do that and we can figure out what's happening in between the tackles with the guards in the center, if Osiris Torrance can continue to ascend at the guard position, if Spencer Brown can continue to ascend at the right tackle position, and we can figure out exactly what's happening at the interior with the center and the guard position, I believe the Buffalo Bills can definitely have some success as an offense, as long as the offensive line remains status quo. Now, last season, the Buffalo Bills ranked, I believe, in the top half, coming in at 16th as an offensive line in full, and not good, not great, but it was good enough. It's good enough to get the job done. Why? Because of our quarterback, the type of quarterback we have in Josh Allen. He has the athletic ability to mask some liabilities and some opportunities the offensive line may have up front. So because of the athletic specimen we have at quarterback, is the reason why I believe the offensive line should at least remain status quo. 143 pressures allowed from the Buffalo Bills offensive line last season. So we've seen some struggles there, but because of the athletic ability of Josh Allen, it only equated to 9 sacks. So if the offensive line can remain status quo, not get worse, and hope some players can continue to develop and ascend as individuals, I believe overall the Buffalo Bills offense can find some consistency in scoring points if they have consistency up front. Let me get some thoughts on that. Sandra says, good evening. Good evening, Sandra. Good evening. Grant says, bring back the K-gun. I don't think that's going to be brought in back, especially with Joe Brady. We'll talk about him in a minute. Joe Brady seems as if he's a guy that he wants the defense to defend every blade of grass offensively. He wants the defense to play all 11 players on the football field, right? And I say all 11 players because Josh Allen is included within the offense. We saw last season that with Ken Dorsey was possibly trying to limit the amount of hits Josh Allen was taking, or his offensive style and his schematics was taking Josh Allen out of being a part of the offense when he was able to use his legs, which is part of his strength. And I like the fact that Joe Brady has came back in and implemented that part of Josh Allen game, because that game using his legs is a part of his strength and overall progresses the overall structure of the Bills offense when Joe Brady and Josh Allen is able to use his legs. I like the comment nonetheless. Joey, what's up, my people? Go Bills! I appreciate you, Joey. So first, in terms of the Buffalo Bills having success as an offense with all these changing parts and moving pieces and young players, is having good offensive line play, at least remaining status quo, right? Building a team from the inside out, building a team that has good offensive line play, it creates foundational structure. And when you create that foundational structure, when you build a team the proper way, starting with the offensive line, you're building the foundation the right way, and then success shortly follows after that. This is why we see the success of the Detroit Lions, right? We want to look at all the sexies and Sam Laporta and St. Brown and Gibbs, and we see the attractive pieces they have on the outside. But the Detroit Lions, they have one of the best offensive line, a top 3 to 5 offensive line in the NFL. And because the Detroit Lions have a top 3 to 5 offensive line in the NFL, Jared Goff is now looked at as a top quarterback in the league. He signed his extension. The running game is looked at as a focal point in the offense, and everybody has become a little bit more dangerous because of the foundation that was properly built by the Detroit Lions in having a great offensive line play. So the Buffalo Bills, being that they have a different athletic build than the Detroit Lions, and Josh Allen, a guy that can move his legs and can manipulate the defense with his legs, they don't have to be as great, as stout, but it is definitely important component in the Buffalo Bills' success, especially this season when you have a bunch of young transitioning parts around Josh Allen. Offensive line play. Let me get into, see if I see any more thoughts there. No more thoughts there. Once again, ARich, Richens. This is the Founders Pod. Shout out my brother DM3, who is in the process of moving right now. So we hope to get him back sooner rather than later. So I'm gonna go ahead and knock this solo pod out right quick for the Founders Pod while we wait on the presence of DM3 back next week. But moving on, right? Another key component for Josh Allen that has to continue to ascend in order for the Buffalo Bills to have success this season. Now, I know Stephon Diggs is not there, and I know that the Buffalo Bills have to make up for targets going around now, right? 241 targets is now off the team, so there's going to be plenty of targets to go around, and that's why you see Joe Brady say in his presser, everybody has an opportunity to eat. And I think when you don't have a Tyreek Hill or a Stephon Diggs or Justin Jefferson, and you don't have this alpha, bona fide number one wide receiver, and you have a bunch of guys who has potential and who is capable, but never seen them do it in a consistent fashion. When you have a group like that, it can lead to a lot of guys sharpening their iron, and it can lead to a lot of competitiveness in the locker room, and it leads to what you hope to see is somebody emerge into being that guy, to be the most trustworthy guy late in games where Josh Allen's going to look to, and when a play has to be made late in games when Josh Allen has to look to a guy that's going to make that catch and trust that when he throws the ball, he's going to come up with this football. So my number 2 key component into the Buffalo Bills having success this season is one of our wide receivers has to emerge. One of our wide receivers has to emerge as the number one option for the Buffalo Bills this season. Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, Curtis Samuel, Mac Hollins, MVS, Claypool, Dalton Kincaid, KJ Hamler, Andy Isabella, Tyrell Shavers. One of these players has to emerge as the quote unquote number one option for the Buffalo Bills in this offense. And who is it going to be? Is it going to be the most productive player that we have within the offense thus far? And that's Curtis Samuel, who has over 3,300 yards for his career, 22 touchdowns, over 700 rushing yards, and another 7 touchdowns. He's a guy that before coming to the Buffalo Bills, he was looked at as a gadget player. He was looked at as a player that can play everywhere along the offense, the X, the Y, the Z, and in the backfield. His best season was in 2020 when Joe Brady was offensive coordinator with over 800 yards, and he was able to play that slot role. He was able to come out the backfield and go outside when need be. He did a multitude of things within that Carolina Panthers defense in order for him to have success this season. Is he the guy that's going to step up and emerge as that go-to guy for the Buffalo Bills when they need a catch to be made on 3rd and 5, when they need a catch to be made on 4th and 3, on 3rd and 11? Who's going to step up and be that guy? Is it going to be Khalil Shakir, who had 39 receptions, 611 yards last season, and 2 touchdowns, who continued to ascend throughout the course of the season, a guy who continued to display that he is indeed capable of being that consistent receiver you can depend on late in games, in crucial moments of the games, and come up and make the correct play and make the precise play. He is that yak receiver that seamlessly fits within Joe Brady's offense, that if I look at a guy, out of all the guys that I named, if I looked at a guy that I think can maximize his potential within a Joe Brady offense, I'm looking at a guy like a Khalil Shakir, right? Is he the guy that can ultimately step up and be that number one option for the Buffalo Bills? But ultimately, who I think is going to be the guy and who should be the guy for the Buffalo Bills is Dalton Kincaid, right? 73 receptions, over 600 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think he had a remarkable season last year, and I think his remarkable season is a little overshadowed and a little overlooked because you have a guy like Stephon Diggs on the football team, and you have a guy like Sam Laporta for the Detroit Lions, who was drafted later and was just excelling and being dominant as a rookie. So he was overshadowed a little bit. But I think coming into year 2, no Stephon Diggs, no obvious number one guy to go to. Dalton Kincaid is the guy that emerges and leads the Buffalo Bills to that prominent role in terms of being that number one option, that number one receiver, that number one threat Josh Allen is going to look to late in games and and when plays need to be made. And Dalton Kincaid. So we'll see how the receiving room progresses for Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills in camp and as the season goes along. But in order for the Buffalo Bills to have success, one of these guys at some point has to come along and be that guy for the Buffalo Bills. Let me get some thoughts on Dalton Kincaid. Grant says I could really see Kincaid and Shakir almost sharing that number one read. Joey Hatch says, and I remember Joe Brady got the most out of Curtis Samuel's best year he ever had with Joe Brady. Yes, he did have his best year, Curtis Samuel with Joe Brady. And those are the guys that I look to emerge. I think MVS is a guy that is going to bring another dimension to the Buffalo Bills offense, but I don't think he's going to emerge as the number one star or the number one guy in the Buffalo Bills offense. He adds a dimension as a field stretcher. It's going to be a lot to depend on a guy like Chase Claypool to coming out of nowhere after having his NFL career in the balance to now leading the Buffalo Bills in receptions, or look to him for him to be a guy that could lead the Buffalo Bills in any type of capacity. So I think in order for the Buffalo Bills to have success, one of those three guys in terms of Khalil Shakir and Curtis Samuel and Dalton Kincaid has to step up and be that guy, be that number one guy for the Buffalo Bills. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you're now in tune to the Founders Pod, I'm your host, ARich, Akeem Richens. If you don't know me, if you don't know us by now, get to know us. We are indeed built in Buffalo. I want to get into, can you plug? I want to get into another key component for the Buffalo Bills that has to continue to ascend if the Buffalo Bills want to have any kind of success this season, right? Because what we've been hearing from media outlets, what we've been hearing from the Nick Rice of the world, or the Emmanuel Achos of the world, what have we been hearing from these guys? We've been hearing that the Buffalo Bills are a team that is going to take a step back, right? We've been hearing that the Buffalo Bills is a team that is not climbing through that window. That window is not getting bigger. That window is getting smaller, and is getting smaller to climb through because we're losing the players that we're losing. So how are the Buffalo Bills going to continue to have success? How are the Buffalo Bills going to continue to have this window that we hopes to remain open, and the answer into how we're going to do that is hoping that we can draft well, right? Hoping that we could continue to draft well, so we're not rebuilding players and we're reloading players, we're retooling players, right? The hope is that Josh Allen can continue to develop and progress as a quarterback in terms of keeping his turnovers down, being smart with the football each and every play, because he have these young guys around him that can make mistakes. Having a guy like Joe Brady who can continue to develop as an offensive play caller himself, right? Because I think that is something that we can't take for granted as well. Joe Brady is in his second year, so to speak, as a play caller for the Buffalo Bills. Took off an interim tag his first year as the obvious offensive play caller, and his second stint as an offensive play caller in the NFL, he had his struggles with the Carolina Panthers. He was fired from the Carolina Panthers after his second season. There is some things about his game as a play caller that can be worrisome. He can be predictable at times. He can not adjust to certain things he sees at times. And when times get tough, when the game gets into balance, can he call the correct play? Can he make the correct call in order for the Buffalo Bills to have success? This is not like last season where Ken Dorsey was the play caller and we had Joe Brady waiting in the wings. We don't have this other guy, offensive play caller, waiting in the wings, like we did Joe Brady last year. Ronald Curry is the quarterback's coach for the Buffalo Bills. Is he ready to take over as offensive play caller if Joe Brady doesn't have the success, or if Joe Brady has the same struggles or runs into the same struggles Ken Dorsey ran into last season? What happens if he stumbles? So I think the development of Joe Brady definitely plays a part into this as well, and we have to see how he continues to call plays week in and week out for the Buffalo Bills. Going back, getting into John. John says the O line coach uh, can also work with him because he was an OC. Aaron Cromer is doing a excellent job as the offensive line coach for the Buffalo Bills, right? And we hope that he continues to do an excellent job this season. He definitely has his work cut out for him. No having Mitch Marshall no longer, that veteran presence is gone. You have a new center in the fold. You have a second year guard in the fold, and you have some new working parts with David Edwards. Is he going to be the starter? Leal Collins, is he going to be the starter? Is the rookie from Georgia, the rookie center from Georgia, is he going to be the starter? So I love the competitive edge that was brought into the offensive line room, and we have the best offensive line coach to provide the teachings, coaching, and development that's going along with the offensive line. So I believe we're going to have the best five on the field. It's just way too early to tell what five beyond Spencer Brown, Dawkins, and Connor McGovern and Osiris Torrance. We don't know who that fifth player is, and that can go a multitude of ways. But moving on, right? Another key component in terms of the Buffalo Bills having any types of success, something else that has to continue to ascend in order for the Buffalo Bills to have success this season is, let me see if I can find it here, sustaining success in the running game, right? And I think this is important because it opens everything up. If you have success in the running game, you create an identity, right? If you have success in the running game, you create a physicality to your football team, right? If you have success in the running game, it takes a lot of stress off later down in distance situations. It's a lot more plays Joe Brady can run when it's 3rd and 5 as opposed to it being 3rd and 11. There's a lot more plays Joe Brady can run when it's 2nd and 4 as opposed to it being 2nd and 9. So when you have success and when you sustain, that's what we hope to sustain that success in the running game. It opens up so many avenues for the rest of the Buffalo Bills skilled players. Last season, the Buffalo Bills was 7th in rushing yards, right? Top 7 in rush yardage. They were 5th in rush attempts, 7th in yards per carry, 7th in yards per game, 5th in rushing TDs. James Cook had over 11. I want to know who's ringing my bell. James Cook had over 1,100 yards running the ball, had over 1,500 yards from scrimmage, and was a Pro Bowler last year for the Buffalo Bills. First time Pro Bowler since Shady McCoy. First time a running back going over 1,000 yards since Shady McCoy. And I do love James Cook's game, and I do believe he's going to ascend as an individual player. But I do feel in my heart of hearts he's had that success because of the individual prowess he possesses, along with the schematics, the scheme that Joe Brady loves to implement. Joe Brady's scheme is a running back friendly scheme. And if you have a running back that is good to above average, he can be very successful in this scheme. So the Buffalo Bills, in order to have success this season, they have to continue to sustain success within the running game this year for the Buffalo Bills in order for the rest of that group to have success. Let me get some thoughts on sustaining success in the running game, right? And another component into sustaining success is that running back 2, that running back 3. It's a lot different than last year, right? Having Latavius Murray, while I do think he did a fine job, he wore down being the oldest running back in the league last year. He wore down as the season progressed for the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills lacked that second guy that could provide juice, that could provide a spark. Ty Johnson, I think, did a fine job, but I think he is best well served as a number 3 back as opposed to a number 2 back. So now you implement a guy like Ray Davis, who's had over 430 carries his last 2 years in his collegiate career, and you have a guy that can provide some toughness between the tackles. You have a guy that could provide soft hands and some receiving skills at the back, out the backfield, that meshes well with James Cook and what Joe Brady wants to do on offense. And now you have 3 running backs, in my opinion, in James Cook, in Ray Davis, in Ty Johnson, that can provide juice and a spark consistently throughout the course of the season. And I'm excited to see what this trio can do in terms of success between the tackles and catching the ball out the backfield for the Buffalo Bills. So sustaining success in the running game, I think, is going to be important for the Buffalo Bills to find and achieve overall success as an offense, right? Because of not having that bona fide receiver, and because of not having the veteran presence we're accustomed to having, because of so much moving parts and new players along the offensive side of the ball. The running game, the offensive line has to remain part of that foundation for the Buffalo Bills. Let me get some thoughts with that. Once again, ARich, Akeem Richards. This is the Founders Pod. Shout out my brother DM3. Hope to have him back as early as next week. And shout out everybody in the Built in Buffalo, in the Built in Buffalo brand. We have a lot of amazing shows every day of the week except for Tuesday. We're going to continue to work on our Tuesday and be set for 7 days of the week when the season starts for the Buffalo Bills. I see some interesting comments here. And I want to get into my last thought, but I want to get this comment on first. Let's see what Jack has. Regression analysis is flawed with hyperbole. New, young, less dented, banged up players bring more stamina. Plus, they don't carry the weight of disappointed defeats. Their outlook is fresh, not burdened with past mistakes and would have and should have, could have applications. Not saying any of the players that left weren't valuable or productive. However, the Bills weren't winning the crucial games with them. It's a wait and see condition at this stage, too early to form solid conclusions. But that's the thing, right? That's the thing. And this is an excellent comment, excellent assessment by Jack. But that's the thing here, right? You're absolutely right, right? And that's what the thought process is. But I think the part of the thought process we're missing is that we can indeed get worse, right? Now, I know that we wasn't winning those games and we didn't hoist the Lombardi trophy and we didn't win that main game, that game we wanted to win, but they got to that point. What we hope for, but can't assume, is that these new players can continue to get to that point. Now it's about, okay, Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott, the cap situation, how we draft. What are we going to do now to sustain this overall success, right? And sustaining this overall success is having a perennial playoff team. Sustaining the success is winning the AFC East title again. Sustaining this success is being in the playoffs year in and year out, right? Can we reload and sustain that success at worst? And at best, can we ascend past that without Stephon Diggs, without Gabriel Davis, without Trey White, without Jordan Poyer, without all pros we had? Can we ascend past that success and hoist the Lombardi trophy? So that's the two things that we're hoping for as fans, right? Sustainability, continue to play at the level we are, and hope with that we can ascend past that and ultimately hoist the Lombardi trophy. But the downside to that is getting worse. The downside to that is the New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins overtaking us because, okay, we don't have those players didn't get to the mountaintop in terms of hoisting the Lombardi trophy, but the players we have now are not even good enough to get to the level our former players had us at, right? And I think that is the main concern that I have as a Buffalo Bills fan. Can we sustain that success and ascend, or are we going to drop back to the levels of mediocrity? Are we going to drop back to the levels of 17 years of not making the playoffs? And I think that is the transition that we're in right now as Buffalo Bills fans. And we are in that wait and see mode. We have Josh Allen. We have the franchise quarterback. We have the superstar player at the most important position. But we are now at that wait and see mode because we have so many transitioning parts, so many moving parts that we don't know where we're at until we see the production out on the field. Now, does that make any sense? Right? So I think this is why it's a pivotal moment in Brandon Beane's career and Sean McDermott's career. This is why I believe this is the most challenging season for Josh Allen going into year 7, because of all the things that they have to deal with this year that they didn't have to deal with in years past, because of the veteran leadership around them, because of the all-pro level and the superstar talent around them, because of the type of coaches, the type of coaching staff that they had around them over the years. Even the coaching staff has changed. There's no more Brian Dabols. There is no more Leslie Frazier's. There is no more coaches that was implemented with Sean McDermott's staff that had the experience coming in of 20 years experience, right? There, Sean McDermott came in for the Buffalo Bills as a head coach, and he built a team around him, a team of coaches around him that had a plethora of experience, that had a plethora of NFL to head coaching experience. Now, the transition of coaches is on the spotlight as well, right? Sean McDermott, he has young Ronald Curry around him as the quarterback's coach, young Joe Brady around him, offensive coordinator, young Bobby Babish, first-time defensive coordinator, right? So the transition is not only with the players, the transition is with the coaches as well. And if the coaches are not the leaders of men, and if the coaches can't develop these transitioning and young players, then we're going to have a lot more problems than just the players on the football field, right? So this is a important time for the Buffalo Bills as a team, as a staff, as an organization. Last but not least, I think another thing I want to point out, and then I'll just take some questions and comments, is I know the offense is an important piece to the cog, right? But if you look at the Kansas City Chiefs last season, right? You look at what was successful. You look at what was the reasoning behind the success and ultimate hoisting of the Lombardi trophy for the Kansas City Chiefs. And when you look at it, it's all the foundational parts. The Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl because they had all the foundational parts to be successful. They had the quarterback. They had the generational quarterback, right? They had the franchise quarterback. They had the head coach, which is in question for us. We don't have any Andy Reids over here. We don't have any offensive guru over here. We don't have one of the greatest coaches of all time over here, right? And I think that's an obvious foundational piece, foundational part, especially when you have a head coach that is calling plays for the offense year in and year out. That helps, right? They had all the foundational parts in place. The offensive line, Ever since the Kansas City Chiefs lost to Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, ever since you saw Patrick Mahomes running for his life in the Super Bowl, they made a constant effort to upgrade that offensive line, to upgrade the tackle position, to upgrade the center position, to upgrade the guard position. The Kansas City Chiefs, they had a lot of struggles with their offense, but they had a great offensive line, a top 10 offensive line in the league. And when you had that foundational part, they was able to find success, right? And I think another thing that can't be ignored as a foundational piece to the puzzle is, as much as people want to talk about it being an offensive league, it being a passing league, and you do win offense, you do win championships with offense. Championships start with defense. Championships start with defense, and the Kansas City Chiefs pass defense was amongst the best in the NFL. The Kansas City Chiefs defense was amongst the best in the NFL. When the Kansas City Chiefs offense struggled, they had a great defense to hold the fort for the Kansas City Chiefs offense until they eventually got going, right? The Kansas City Chiefs never got going right away, but they was always in a position to get going later on and eventually win the ball game because their defense was a great one. That was a foundational part to their success. And I think the Buffalo Bills, they have to be similar. They have to have that foundational part of having a strong defense. And that is another question that has to be answered as well, right? Is the Buffalo Bills defense a top defense in this NFL this year? There's no longer the safeties that we can look to and can depend on their high IQ. It's no longer the all-pro cornerback, right? Von Miller is not the guy he once was, even at the time we signed him. We hoping he can get back there. But if he's not there, if he's not that guy he once was, how great of a pass rush the Buffalo Bills going to have? How great of an overall defense the Buffalo Bills is going to have? And I think that if we see any struggles within the Buffalo Bills defense, I think that's where things could compound and make the offense struggle a bit more than we would want to see. So overall, while I do believe this is Josh Allen's offense, I also believe there are things around him that has to ascend and has to be successful in order for him and in order for the Buffalo Bills overall as a team to have that success. So let me get some thoughts into that as well. Defense is a good offense at times, right? And the Kansas City Chiefs defense, as much as we want to talk about Andy Reid, as much as we want to talk about Patrick Mahomes and those type of talents, those type of generational talents on that side of the ball, as much as we want to talk about Travis Kelce being one of the greatest tight ends of all time, it was the Kansas City Chiefs defense. Because Kansas City, they could have had all those things. If their defense was a shit defense, they wasn't going to hoist the no Lombardi trophy. If their defense was a shit defense, they would not have hoisted that Lombardi trophy. So I believe having a good defense can be supplementive to having a good offense, and not even necessarily a good offense, an opportunistic offense. Right? You can't hold us down forever, and our defense did a good enough job to keep us in the game so our offense can move this football. If our defense cannot keep us in the game, if our defense continues to give up points on the ground and through the air, that puts more pressure on Josh Allen to make a play. That puts more pressure on Keon Coleman and these receivers to make plays. And once you added pressure to these type of players, the expectations now get higher, and now we expect players to do more than they're probably capable of doing. So having a great defense is going to mean a lot, and I'm going to see who's calling plays for the Buffalo Bills. This is going to be Sean McDermott or Bobby Babish. Let me get some thoughts and comments in here. Again, ARich, Akeem Richards. This is the Founders Pod. If you don't know me by now, please, ladies and gentlemen, get to know me. Uh, Let me get some comments. My guy Joey is on a roll right now. Let me see if I can get in the comment from Grant. Yeah, our defense could be a liability this year. Yes, hope the Bills add at least one more piece to the defense post June 1st, and we're going to see what happens. Right? Uh, that's what I would think would happen with the Buffalo Bills if they're going to add a player post June 1st because they got the $10 million because of Trey White. I'm thinking it would be a guy on the defensive side of the ball as opposed to the offensive side of the ball. You sign MVS, you sign Chase Claypool, you sign these guys. I'm not thinking that you're going to now turn around and spend more money on a high caliber receiver via trade, right? So if I'm thinking that the Buffalo Bills are going to spend more money to improve their football team, it may be that defensive side of the ball. And the first thing that comes to mind, the first name that comes to mind, is a guy like Justin Simmons. We'll see what happens with Justin Simmons, the safety for the former Denver Broncos safety. He's still out there. He's still available. We'll see what happens with that. We'll see what happens with Micah Hyde. Micah Hyde's been mentioning for some time that is either the Buffalo Bills or he's going to retire, right? So we're going to see what happens with Micah Hyde, Justin Simmons, the safety position, and the $10 million that in cap space the Buffalo Bills freed up now that it's post June 1st. Um, yeah, and I apologize, ladies and gentlemen, for my camera today. I was going off Wi-Fi and I didn't have my Ethernet cable in my port. But any more comments before I get out of here, man? I appreciate everybody for tuning in to the Founders Pod today. I appreciate everybody for rocking with me. I know the camera was a little shaky in the beginning. I'm gonna rewatch the show. Hopefully it got better. It doesn't look great right now, but we'll see what happens. ARich, Akeem Richards. Tune into the Founders Pod next week. Hopefully we have DM3 back. If we don't have DM3 back, I'll have somebody joining me within the Built in Buffalo brand, and continue to look out for amazing news and notes and things brewing within the brand. We have a lot of things coming, a lot of exciting news to detail in these next couple of weeks. So stay tuned. We have a lot of things coming, man. ARich, Akeem Richards. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. If you don't know us by now, get to know us. Everybody have a great night. Go Bills.